Going really between turns. It's a very interesting one in my book.
Yeah, talking about introduction, looking into the players' faces, you can tell they are impatient. You are impatient. We're impatient. Why don't we just hop right into the match, because the players are ready and we are ready. Let's get it underway. It's round number 8. We're getting to crunch time. It's very important to win these matches if you want to advance into the next day on Saturday. If you want to see these players again on stream, well, they better win this one.
Absolutely, and it looks like Jack's going to be the one starting off here. He's led with his Fright Night Yveltal, and Michael Pramawat has begun with the Trubbish. Looking at the two lists, they seem almost as close to one another as we've seen throughout the day. We've seen a few different variations of lists. We've seen ones with 4 Yveltal EXs, we've seen ones with a thicker Garbodor line, we've seen ones with Zoroark. These two players are playing, I think it's 3 or 4 cards maximum difference here, so pretty much as close as it gets between the two players' lists. It's really going to be down to them to see how they can outmaneuver one another.
Yeah, the biggest difference that we have noticed is that Jack is actually playing Trainer's Mail, and I think Michael isn't.
Yeah, I believe Jack is playing just the 2 Trainer's Mail, which is the standard count, and it looks like Pram has opted to go for a couple more tech supporter cards. The Team Flare Grunt that we've seen Azul was playing earlier on in the day, and he's also playing the Delinquent. Delinquent is one of these cards that can be a game changer at times, so Jack has to be on his toes. If ever he is unaware that Michael Pramawat is playing the Delinquent and he puts himself down to a 3-card hand or less, that could be completely gone at any moment.
Yeah, huge max elixir. Those max elixirs, and of course hitting them, is a very, very important factor here in the mirror match. Jack, as we've seen just in his prize cards, 3 of his 9 Darkness Energy were actually prized, so good for him that he hit this first max elixir, 1 attachment on the basic, and Shaman EX for some more cards in hand.
Yeah, this is a really good start for him. He's got a couple of attachments going. It looks like he's drawn into the Fighting Fury Belt, which is a pretty big deal in this matchup. As long as you can turn off your Fright Night Yveltal, we know Michael Pramawat does have the Trubbish in the active right now, so we're going to see Jack opting to just discard his own. Oftentimes, controlling who puts the Garbodor into play is an interesting interaction. Jack's saying, you know what, Michael, you've got the Trubbish down already. You can initiate this war. I'm just going to go for my attackers for now.
Yeah, Jack's hand's a little bit shaking, but who can blame him? I mean, he's so young. He's facing one of the legends of the game, but he has a nice board setup. He has a very nice accomplishment today. He must feel very nice about himself. Now he can make it into next day, and also that on stream. So the pressure is really on for him, but I think he should just enjoy the nice time he has right now. It's all looking good for him.
Absolutely. Both players on 6-1 records, so last couple of rounds are really where it gets really close, and dreams can be made and crushed, to be honest. It is a brutal game at times. Jack starting off very nicely as he goes into that Professor Sycamore. He's got a bunch of attackers down. He's got more max elixirs. Everything's going right for this turn 1.
Yeah, Michael is looking a little bit impatient here. It's like, is he allowed to play this many item cards? I know there was a rule that allows only 2 or 3. I'm sure of it, but Jack keeps on going. Another Trainer's Mail coming up for another Versus Seeker. Well, he's not allowed to play another supporter, that's for sure, but I think I saw another max elixir.
Yeah, opting to take a target. VS Seeker obviously is an important one. It means he can reuse Professor Sycamore next turn. It also just allows to have 1 less card in deck, so he's more likely to hit the max elixir, and indeed he does. It's no secret that to be on a 6-1 record, it's not enough to be a good player with a good deck. You also need to get a little bit lucky at times, and this turn 1 looks like the dream to me.
Yeah, that's just amazing. And he decides not to go with the Yveltal EX that already has energy attached to it. Very interesting. He goes with the one that hasn't any. So I think he's going to end his turn anytime soon. 5 minutes in already. It looks like he's playing Night March, but he's not.
Absolutely. I think this is absolutely ideal. I think a lot of the time you want to have the Yveltal EXs as the main attackers. Normally you need no more than 1 Fright Night Yveltal in this mirror match to get that Pitchback Spear going, because it sets off multiple attackers in danger. So that's pretty good. We see Pramawat. It looks like he's going to have a much slower turn than Jack has.
Oh boy.
We see the Lysander to bring up the other Fright Night Yveltal. We see the Floatstone get attached to Trubbish, and it looks like that's going to be all he can do here.
This is soul crushing. There's nothing he can do in his hand.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where it's a polar opposite situation, isn't it? Jack got everything going. Michael didn't. We see the turn attachment of the double colorless energy. So if he hits more max elixirs, he can start putting pressure on for the knockout. So really everything's in Jack's control right here.
Yeah, but Jack is kicking himself now. He could have had the win for game number 1 if he attached the Darkness Energy to the Yveltal EX that has energy attached to it. But now here it comes. This could also be a second, but he doesn't hit it. So he's really kicking himself for the max elixir last turn. Michael's here to
Pram
stay
gives-
for another round.
Michael Pramawat does give a little bit of a grin. He knows how important that was, that the Max Elixir did not hit. He has one more top deck to potentially still be in this game. I think Michael Pramawat does have the Enhanced Hammer in his hand as well, so if Jack chooses not to retreat here, he could be able to get rid of that double colourless and put Jack back at square one. So although Jack is inches away from winning the game, I think Pram, although he doesn't have a great hand, he has answers for a turn or two.
Let's see if he's going to use the double colorless to retreat immediately. Of course, he might as well be afraid of a Versus Seeker, another Lysander. So it's really a tough decision to retreat right now. There are reasons for and against it.
Yeah.
And he's going to find out very soon he made the wrong decision. But
well,
any case, there's
Michael
also
had
Versus Seeker.
both in hand.
Yes.
So he was damned if he did, damned if he didn't. So we do see Michael Pramawat does, of course, go for the Enhanced Hammer. That's all he could do. The top deck was a dead card, unfortunately. Just the Dark Energy. Back over to Jack, and let's see how he can capitalize here. He might this turn, if he's able, go for a Dark Attachment. That time, that way it's a lot safer, and everything is sort of in range. He doesn't actually have anything, so run out of a little bit of steam. Pramawat again with a very bad top deck. He just shakes his head. It's a Max Elixir. That doesn't help him right now.
Draw pass, draw
see
pass.
An Ultra Ball from Jack. He is going to maybe dig cards for a Shaman EX to get out of this awkward hand. Getting rid of a Garbodor. He feels like he doesn't need it this game. Pram can get his own Garbodor out if need be. He's also going to discard the Pokemon Center Lady, which has been rated as a very good card for the mirror match. Right now, though, Jack doesn't need it because he can win the game this turn if everything goes his way.
Indeed, it is going to be a Shaman because Michael wasn't even able to find himself a Garbodor. He doesn't find anything that could get him going. And now Jack's going to draw into, I think, 3 cards, if I saw correctly.
So the things he's wanting here, he only plays Floatstone. He doesn't play Olympia or anything like Switch or Escape Rope. So I think Michael should be safe for a turn here. I think the thing he's wanting more than anything is just a Dark Energy attachment this turn and maybe a supporter. Looks like the double colourless is again the thing he's drawn into, which could be awkward for him in its own right. Because he's so worried about the Enhanced Hammer that's just happened. We do see the Parallel City gets played, so he can get rid of a couple of bench sitters which aren't too helpful, which is going to be really nice for him. And he does have the decision of where to attach this energy right now.
Taking his time here. I mean, could attach it and retreat immediately. He's going to find out that would be the wrong decision.
I still think that just attaching and passing, although he's seen one Enhanced Hammer already, it just means Michael's less likely to have the second one if he even plays a second. 2 is often the standard amount that we see of Enhanced Hammer in Yveltal builds, but because Michael's not been able to draw many cards, it's unlikely that he has the second one. I think this is the only play you can really go for. He's more likely to have the 4 VS Seeker than the 1 of Enhanced Hammer that's remaining in his deck. So the outs are best, and we see that Jack does go for that approach. Michael going for a really, really rough time. He's top decking to once again an energy, playing to his outs. All he can do is Lysander up the other Fright Knight Yveltal now. It has the Fighting Fury belt on, but bear in mind, Garbodor is not in play yet, so the Trubbish will be able to take a hit if he's only able to get Pitch Black Spear, but Jack has nothing. And finally, we see a Professor Sycamore. I mean, he's in the game. It's still a really gross Professor Sycamore, but he's got to do it now.
I mean, Michael's coming over here, flying for 10 hours or so. I was told it was a nice place here in Europe, and all I do is, well, top deck nothing here on stream. I can't believe this, but finally I'm drawing into Professor Sycamore. Let's see if he can turn it around from here.
And we see Pokemon. This is good news for him. A lot of resources going early on. Let's not beat around the bush here, but finally he's hoping to get set up and mirror Jack's amazing board state that he has right now, starting off with a turn attachment at last, as well as a Fighting Fury belt.
Well, you have to give it to Michael, though. He's been dancing for 6 rounds or so, I believe, against an Yveltal deck with a Pokemon that only has 70 HP, and it somehow managed to be still the active Pokemon. So Jack has to ask himself, well, what did I do the last 6 turns? I mean, it still looks like it was still my first turn. So I somehow have to find back into this game because the momentum has a little bit shifted right now.
And it looks like Pramawat does not have another draw supporter. The only things he has are those tech supporters. Maybe this is where we're seeing the lack of Trainer's Mail coming into effect. He's choosing to play the Team Flagrant over a card like that. It's going to be helpful, of course, but it's still awkward for him because, again, he's drawn into a hand of not much.
Jack is trapped. He found himself another double colorless energy, but what is he going to do with it? All his Pokemon have just the minimum requirements of energy, but not being able to attack at all. He's really, really kicking himself for this decision with the Max Elixir in the beginning, where he tried to power up as many Yveltal EX as he could, maybe preparing for a Lysander that way. But now he's really kicking himself because he just doesn't have anything to get even one attack going.
And here we go. We do see an Ultra Ball from Michael, so he's going to be able to start getting set up once again. This is where hopefully the game can start kicking off and going up in tempo. Both players, as you've said, Michael's been keeping that little Trubbish in the active since turn 1, and somehow it's received no damage so far. Jack choosing to attach the double colours energy to his Yveltal EX before passing his turn. There's no real need to just attach the double colours to the active, because then it's in threats from the Yveltal EX, as long as Michael does choose to put the Garbodor into play. So I like this move from Jack. He's playing to his outs like both players have been doing. Pram is able to draw a fresh hand here from the Shaman.
Well, I have to admit, when I first saw both deck lists, I was like, another Yveltal mirror match, really? But this is nothing like I've expected, I have to admit. It's very entertaining, though. Let's see if Michael can finally get himself going with something. I didn't see what kind of cards he was drawing.
It always seems like games like these is what differentiates a good player from a great player. A good player is able to make the correct sequencing and do the normal things when your deck is functioning normally. Whereas the great players, when they're backed up into a corner, they can still find the outs, keep a cool head to get themselves back into the game, and it looks like Michael's currently being able to do that at least. That Trubbish still in the active. He doesn't mind if Jack does eventually get out of this Fright Night Yveltal, because it really forces more resources from him. For now, Michael's absolutely fine with his board position. I think he's starting to take a bit of momentum. We do see him does evolve up into the Garbodor, and he does have a VS Seeker to then go for a very clean Professor Sycamore.
Yeah, believe it or not, he's going to be the one that is going to get the first attack in.
Well, potentially. It depends what he wants to do here. I think he may be content with just keeping on the bench and getting even more Max Elixir as an attachment. So I think he's fairly happy with this Garbodor in the active. Although at the same time he could feel fairly content to start putting some pressure on, expecting Jack can't move the active. I think it's the safest option to just, as we see, he's attached to the Fright Night Yveltal, and he might just pass it over here. He is debating it, as you can see. It's a bit of a tough call. He does have the Fighting Fury Bout in his hand as well. Not sure where this can go. It could, of course, go onto the Fright Night now that the Garbodor has been put up, and we see Michael does choose to pass his turn here. Jack looking for his discard pile furiously. He might have a VS Seeker in there somewhere. But although he had such a crazy turn 1, it was one of those things where he was putting down every single card he had, putting down a lot of bench Pokemon. That played into Michael's favor a lot. And we're seeing that sort of backfire now. It looked like a very dominant board position, but those things are also punishable. So definitely with this deck where you're playing 3 Floatstone, he committed quite a few early on, and he's suffering for that right now. Yeah,
for Jack to retreat that Yveltal, or maybe to attach to it, it takes energy, because there's no way they can attach another Floatstone. But he's afraid that there's another Versus Seeker in Michael's hand that he could use for another Team Flare Grunt, and he would waste another turn and another energy. So it's really tough decision for him to what to do, and he decides to actually not do anything, just pass it over. And Michael is actually the one that is going to be powering up his Fright Night Yveltal, and this might be a very good option for him right now to use, because this way he can start dealing some damage on the Yveltal EX on the bench.
Absolutely, and now that he has the energy to attack with the Fright Night, I think this is the perfect opportunity to go into the active. He's got the Fighting Fury Belt, which of course does work because Garbodor shuts off the Fright Night ability, so that Yveltal non-EX has 170 HP. He's going to start unloading some Pitch Black Spears, 70 to the active and 60 to the benched Yveltal EX with the Fighting Fury Belt, putting it in a little bit softer range while Jack still struggles to get anything going here.
Yeah, and now the Fighting Fury Belt actually working against Jack, if you think about it, because it can take another Pitch Black Spear.
Yeah.
He doesn't want this Yveltal to take another one, so he's discarding in a double colors energy using his Enhanced Hammer. So Michael, I think he just attaches double colorless, from his hand to the Yveltal, so he might be looking through his discard pile. How many have I used up already? He needs to find another one.
Yeah, absolutely. But at the same time, if Jack doesn't do much else this turn, then he could be content to just attach some of those dark energies that is in his hand, because Jack's still between a rock and a hard place, really. We see him Ultra Balling maybe just to thin his hand more than anything. Again, we have to remind the viewers that Michael does have the Delinquent in his deck, not currently in his hand, but at any point that could completely swing the game. So this is really tight right now. Both players, it looked like Jack had a crazy good start. He was trying to pretty much end the game straight away while Pram didn't do much. Michael then is able to really come back into this game, Jack's got the decision to make. He chooses to attach to the benched Yveltal. I would have liked to have seen the attachment onto the active a little bit here. It puts pressure on, whereas now Michael's sort of in the spot again where he's free to just fire off some more pitchback spears.
You know, just a couple of minutes ago, we've been talking about Ninja Boy. I'm not going to hide it. I'm a big fan of that, as you call it, premium supporter Ninja Boy. You know, this would be coming in so handy because I think Jack is actually playing the Oblivion Wing Yveltal. I think we saw it just being discarded with his Ultra Ball. Just think about the opportunities that he has with something being stuck in the active. Instead, if he's really being pressured by discarding cards like Team Flaregrant or maybe even the Enhanced Hammer, he would not be caring as much if the Oblivion Wing Yveltal would be active. But well, that's all theoretical, right? I mean, he needs all the other cards in his deck as well, so here we are.
If only you were at the table right now.
Well, I would not be at the first table, I would not be at the feature table anytime soon.
Well, we do see Michael does choose to just attach the Dark Energy to the active. Going to see a Max Elixir come off as well. He's probably going to start looking to get the other Yveltal EX set up. That's often the case, and that is indeed the target that he goes for. Looks like his deck size is already pretty low, so he does kind of need to start picking up the pace in which he starts taking prizes. Both players still at 6 here. It's been a real cat and mouse game so far. He's been setting up a good amount of damage, but he still needs enough turns to win the game here. I don't think it's a problem just yet, but really it does limit, you know, if he wants to Sycamore ever again, he's got to be nervous about that.
Do you think we are featuring players that are sitting at table 250?
Absolutely not. We've seen some amazing gameplay. It just seems to be that Pram is taking his time. He's happy with this Fright Knight stuck into the active. I feel he's the one with control on the game. He's controlling the tempo of the game. He's setting up his board much more than Jack is able to, because Jack's got the niggling feeling in the back of his mind that he would just hope that Michael would just deal with his issue. But Michael's never going to do that for him. That Fright Knight is stuck. It's going to be stuck until the bitter end in his, well, as long as he can hope for, really. Jack's just going to go for the Lysander plate into the Shaman EX. It forces Michael to maybe find another float stone. I think beyond that it doesn't do too much. There's a potential for even a Sky Return play if he wants to take it slow. Jack really scrambling for things to do, and you can see he's got his hand placed down onto the mat there. He's got 3 cards, and you know what that means. If Pram ever finds that delinquent, it could be lights out for Jack.
Yeah, he has his hands folded. You know what that means? Please no delinquent, please no delinquent. But Michael is using his Max Elixir here. I think he whiffed again.
Yeah, that's right. He didn't quite get it. I think the early Professor Sycamore that he had to play when he was backed into a corner, all those resources going out the window was pretty sad for him. Don't know what Michael has now. He does have the double colorless energy that he's going to commit, and it looks like the Sky Return is going to be his option here.
Yeah, double colorless is going to be coming in very handy next turn. Let's see what he's going to promote here. Doesn't really need to make Yveltal active. Yeah, I was thinking about Garbodor as well, because there's no harm in promoting this one right now. Yeah. And so Jack is hoping for another nice card here from the top of his deck.
Yeah, I'm really not sure what Jack's looking to do. He just has to pass. It's not ideal for him. Both players have, well, Jack was able to ramp up really early on, and then he's hit the roadblock, whereas Pram's done the absolute opposite. He has had very slow, I think it was 4 turns he was able to survive with just lone Trubbish, and now he's starting to put his mark on the game and really seize the tempo and really start getting a lot of counters on the board, effectively setting up lots of prizes for the game. It's going to be interesting to see what target he would like to select here for the snipe damage. I could definitely see both Yveltal EXs. There's reasons to put the 60 on either. I think he's going to, yeah, it looks like he wants to put them on both. So they're both almost equally as vulnerable. Obviously one has the Fighting Fury Belt, the other one with the Float Stone. So there was a debate to putting the damage on either. This way Jack still has the headache of committing energy to either of them, seeing as though you can't Y-Cyclone to 1-hit KO the Fright Knight that's in the active for Michael, and especially because it has the Fighting Fury Belt, it almost forces the Evil Ball. But even then, Jack's still in a bit of a spot here. He actually opts to promote the Fright Knight Yveltal, despite having a Float Stoned EX waiting in the back there. We do see he responds with a Fighting Fury Belt of his own, maybe trying to reply with a Lysandra here and get a double pitchback spear going again. Not too sure of his hand size. It doesn't look too large here. I'm not sure what else he has. Maybe just firing off a few pitchback spears is his best option here. He does in fact have the N, and finally he's going to be able to refresh that hand of his.
Yeah, can you believe? I mean, this is an Yveltal mirror match, and we just saw the very first prize card drawn by Michael. I mean, I feel like this is not an Yveltal mirror match. This looks like a truck race uphill.
Yeah, yeah, it's really uncommon for these decks to be so passive and taking their time, but Michael needed the time. He had to start setting up his board to mirror how powerful Jack's side of the board was, and it's really worked out for him because we've almost forgotten how poor of a start he had because of the board state looking almost favourable for him, or at least even.
Yeah, if you rewind the video, I wouldn't believe what just happened. I mean, Jack did not attack once. This is going to be his very first attack. And it was looking much better in turn number 1, and then something happened, things happened. And Michael was somehow able to hang in there, and here we go. It's the very first time, Pitch Black Spear.
Yeah, the Pitch Black Spear. We've seen the damage go onto the bench straight away. Jack now putting the damage counters on the active as well. Pram has drawn for the turn, and he's got the decision to make of what he wants to do here. Both Yveltal EXs, even the one with the float stone. There's another one that's come down now. Jack is playing, I believe, a 3 count of the Yveltal EXs, so they're all in play now. It's going to be interesting what Pram wants to do here. We're going to see the VS Seeker, so he has the option for a few things. Pokemon Center Lady could be an option. Delinquent, although Jack is above that amount of cards. He's in fact going to go for the Team Flare Grunt, and this is exactly the kind of spot where you think this is a very strong card. Jack's gone through a lot of double colorless energies already just to retreat around his other things. And we've already seen the Enhanced Hammer be big, and Flare Grunt on top of that now. Jack's in that same spot again where he can't move the Fright Knight Yveltal.
It's unbelievable. I mean, this is where you can see why Team Flare Grunt is in there. And now Michael, Team Flare Grunt has actually saved him before.
Yep.
In turn number 2 or so, I think, when he used it. Enhanced Hammer saved him another turn, and here we go again, Team Flare Grunt. And Jack is just not able to recover all the energy that has been discarded already. He really, and we remember there are 3 Darkness Energy in his prize cards. So he's really struggling with damage output right now.
And Michael's just checked Jack's deck size. It looks like it's 2 cards only, so there's multiple reasons why Pram seems to be ahead here. Jack is limited to the last double colors that looks to be in his hand. He sort of has to be really careful. If he commits it to the active, sure, he can start attacking or even retreat, but what else does he have to attack with from there? He's spread his energy around so much to protect himself, he can't actually attack too much now.
He finds himself the, I think, last double colorless he has available right now, so we better hang on to it. Not sure if Michael has access to another Versus Seeker or so, but this is going to be very interesting to see what Jack is going to do now. He knows he has to pick up prize cards immediately, and oh well, he's going to spread the damage and spread the cards.
Wow.
Oh, this was his whole deck. Oh!
There's a Super Rod in there. Well, we know that much, so that's good news.
And a Darkness Energy.
That was a bit of a fumble. We've actually had a couple of times on stream where players have been, obviously this is a high pressure tournament and things like that. The playmats getting flopped around a little bit. I mean, there's no real question that he's in a tense spot. He's had a really rocky, emotional game where he could have won if the cards had just fallen better in the first 4 turns. It feels so crushing that it's almost snatched away from you. But he's just in a bad spot right now. He's only able to snipe the active and the bench, so Pram is going to go for the N here. Not sure how many cards Jack has had in his hand and his deck. I'm not sure if that's going to lead to a deck out. It doesn't look like he's extended the hand, so I feel like he's safe. I think he just had a little quick check of his own. The N here maybe just to reset Michael's hand more than just try and go for the deck out approach. But yeah,
Michael's
this is
taking
a
a good
tight
look
game.
here.
Yeah.
He's very curious now. How many cards are going to be left in his deck? Is it going to be 1? Is it going to be 2? It's 1.
1 card only.
Oh, there's no way.
We know now because of the accidental flip of the playmat that one of those cards is Super Rod. So Jack isn't on the timer that he perhaps looks right now.
We know, and he knows now because there's only 1 card left. It's a Darkness Energy and it's a Super Rod, so he has to recover some Darkness Energy before he's going to deal any damage, because maybe the double colorless energy is going to fall either through an attack anytime soon, and then he needs Darkness Energy attached to his Yveltal on the bench. Otherwise, he won't be able to attack.
I like this Ultra Ball as well from Michael. I don't think that this Fright Knight is going to come onto the bench. It looks exactly what I thought it was going to be. It's going to be, in fact, just to N-proof, because he is going to be taking 2 prizes on that Yveltal EX. So he's really gone in a commanding position. We do see Jack does have the Super Rod, so that's a load off his mind at least, but he's got plenty of things to deal with in the current board state alone. There's a prize race initiated by Michael, and also there's a race for the deck out, so he's being attacked on 2 fronts here, and Michael really has put a stranglehold on this game, in my opinion.
And Jack, I think, has another Max Elixir in hand, so he would be guaranteed to hit it, but do you really want to hit it?
Yeah, exactly. We do see the manual attachment to the healthy Yveltal EX We are going to see most likely the pitch-black spear. I'm not sure which target he wants to go for. Michael does have 2 energy, but there is a Fighting Fury about as well. I'm not sure if he has to initiate the prize race too much, but he does just go for the more threatening of the 2 Yveltals here. And he then takes the first prize on Michael's Fright Knight Yveltal, which has put in a lot of work.
And soon both Fright Knight Yveltals are going to be gone for good. At least for Jack, he's not going to be able to recover it. And here's the Delinquent.
That's a pretty big card. There's quite a few cards in his hand, but really this is around N. This is limiting the amount of cards that Jack has to play with. Because he has 3 cards in hand now, 3 cards in deck. That means if Jack ever plays another card, that he can be end and he can lose the game.
So next turn, if Michael has access to that N,
yes,
and Jack is not able to draw a prize card, maybe he will. Let's see how next turn looks.
Course.
But well, Jack is really on the clock here.
Absolutely, that's a powerful Delinquent. It's more versatile than just if your opponent has 3 cards. Michael is obviously scouting that out, and very strong play from him. He's got the interesting choice of where to attach and also attack this turn. Looks like he's going to spread his energies around. There's no reason to be too risky. I think he's setting himself up for multiple win conditions. He is really ahead, in my opinion, here. He's counting his own deck size. It looks like he has 5 or 6 or so he should be pretty safe here. He's worried about benching more Yveltal EXs. In fact, he's just going to opt to look at his opponent's deck, check out the resources. It's also important, he may be thinking that he's sealed up this game. He wants to just see what Jack is playing. What things did I see get discarded by a Professor Sycamore? What do I have to look out for? Was there a Delinquent in his deck? Was there an Olympia that he just whiffed on? What are the Texas he playing? This is all information that he's going to need for the second game, because this was a bizarre first game and a long first game. You need to have as much information as possible going into the second one. And a player as experienced as Pram is going to know that.
We certainly did get maximum value out of that mirror match. Very exciting first game, and it's not over yet. So Michael checking all his options. He finally decides on benching that Yveltal EX and uses the Floatstone Yveltal to become active now and pick up the KO on the active Yveltal.
Absolutely. So he's considering, yep, there is just the attack for the knockout Pram going down to 2 prize cards remaining. But as we say, Jack has to be really careful about what he actually plays, because if he plays a card and doesn't take a prize, he could lose the game here. So he has to be very careful. We do see the attachment of a Dark Energy. This is important. Oh, he's considering it again. He's doing evil ball maths, it looks like, in his head.
He needs it. Otherwise, he's not going to pick up the KO.
Yes, absolutely. So he will be attaching a card, but he's taking prizes, so the N will not be decking him out anymore, because he'll only have to draw 3 cards from the N, so it's a little bit different. So Jack is looking through. There is still, I mean, I still feel he's very much in this game. It's a fully healed Yveltal EX. Both of Pram's are heavily damaged, so it's still really in the balance here.
He gets a Enhanced Hammer and a Trubbish. The Trubbish won't matter, but maybe Enhanced Hammer might come in handy. I don't know how many double colorless Michael has used up so far.
We're seeing him already start doing his old 2 times table for the evil ball, of course. You have to make certain these players have gone through these plays hundreds of times, I would imagine, but high pressure, high stakes. You've got to make sure that you're absolutely certain in times like this. We're going to see him play the Ultra Ball, maybe just to scout out his deck, choosing no target there. We saw 2 double colorless energies, and we also saw Super Rod. So we are going to see the Parallel City come down, and we are also going to see, looks like he's just thinking about the maths here. He's going to play the N, and he's going to look at 50% of his deck.
So, hoping for a double colorless energy. Let's do the math here real quick. The double colorless energy
colorless wins the game.
Puts him at 4 energy, 3 energy, so that's 7 energy. That's 170 damage with the Fighting Fury belt, and that would pick up 2 prize cards. Does he get it?
That's
50%. Yeah, there it is.
So Pram plays to his outs, and he can just go for the evil ball. He's going to do the last check in his head here. Make sure that we're right and we're on our toes. He's got to reveal that he does have that Fury Belt. That's the thing that makes the difference. And he's going to Evil Ball and take the first game against all the odds there.
This absolutely legendary. This game, Michael, here we go, being patient, not giving up, not conceding.
Yep.
Looking at the first 3 or 4 turns, I would have been very close to conceding. Not so much Michael.
Not only not conceding, but the fact that he was able to remain so calm. He's been in so many situations like this before. He's no stranger to being on stream, at high tables, deep in tournaments. So every sort of scenario. I'm sure this has happened to him multiple times where all you got to do is play to your outs. Something can change, and he did so. I think Jack, looking back at that game, he's going to have to think, I probably overbenched things there. I was over eager to finish the game because, you know what, there was just a really delightful looking Trubbish there ready to get knocked out, and we can go to game 2 straight away. But he has to think, what if I don't hit my outs? What if I don't get this KO? And it did lead to Michael being able to punish him and ultimately come back into this game. So potentially it was just over-eagerness, the fact that you see your opponent not drawing well, he's drawing so well, he ran hot, he hit a couple of elixirs, everything was looking great. It's as if the world is all going for you, and then a few plays later, it looks like a very different picture.
It really sounds strange, but he had free energies priced, and he still hit all his max elixir in the beginning. But still, the energy management was what came back to haunt him.
Yes.
He was not able to move his active Eviltal. He wasn't able to get in, attack in for like, I think 7 or 8 turns or so. Something happened to the way he attached energy, and also Michael was very smart in using his enhanced hammer and also Team Flagrant to keep him in there until he drew into this final Professor Sycamore, which got him back into the game.
I think definitely the Team Flagrant, it's definitely validated its slot straight away. For any of you watching the stream here and seeing that Team Flagrant as a one-off tech, I think it's already justified itself in the games that we showed earlier with Azul and Michael here. We're seeing a few prices come down now. Obviously, Jack's going to be able to be the one going first. Looks like Michael has also mulliganed, so that's an extra card for Jack to be able to draw once Michael is able to reset up and find himself a basic Pokemon.
Yeah, on Jack's side, if we take a look at the price cards, we see one Shaman EX, there's a Versus Seeker, double colorless energy, and then a Max Elixir, Ultra Ball, and Fighting Fury Belt, so nothing to be too much worried. Once he plays the first Ultra Ball, he's going to be able to identify these price cards for himself and play accordingly.
Yeah, it looks pretty... I think it's such an interesting game because it's almost... We didn't see any style of play because both players were backed into corners at different points in the game, that we didn't really see a real flow to the game. We didn't see, I'll Y-Cyclone into Evil Ball the next turn. We didn't see the numbers all adding up. It was just sort of, what do I have at the time, and does my opponent have the answer or not? So hopefully we'll see an interesting and, in a completely different way, an intriguing matchup once again, because that was a bizarre game to just behold and just to sit back and watch. I was so thankful to be here and commentating it, but my goodness, that was a game that I won't forget in a long time. Here we see the game 2 introduced, Max Elixir hits straight away, and Jack is already on the front foot.
Sounds familiar, doesn't it? And there's also the active Eviltal, and there's also the active Trubbish.
Yep.
And I know that Michael has a float, so now the difference is he also has Eviltal EX.
Okay, this is literally the identical first turn. We see
it's so strange.
Elixir to the bench, attachment to the active Professor Sycamore. Again, Jack chooses to discard the Trubbish. Now, last time he discarded the Trubbish, Michael did not put the Garbodor into play until he was good and ready. And Jack was punished by the fact that he couldn't use his own float stones. He's opted for the same approach again. Now, what does that say about him as a player, and what does that say about him in terms of how he's trying to navigate this matchup, in your opinion? Was it the fact that he just didn't have the outs last game and he's still happy with this approach? Or is it something where Michael could again capitalize on this?
I think it sounds strange, but at so many points in the game, if he had attached that Max Elixir to the Eviltal EX that already had energy, he would have gone for the attack, and Trubbish would be knocked out immediately.
Sure.
So of course you can argue on how the game went differently, but he could have had it right there and then in turn number 2. So if I'm Jack, I wouldn't question my plays that much, because it was a little hiccup, I want to call it maybe, and now he can learn from it. This game is going to go a little bit differently because Michael is going to be able to bounce back much earlier in the game, as you can see here already. So this is going to be a completely different game, and Jack can now focus again on how he's actually playing those mirror matches. Yeah,
it's a case-by-case basis that you have to really analyze your own plays and look towards the next game. It's almost like Jack has to put that game behind him and almost start again from afresh. He doesn't have to fear the same things he was worried about last time. Michael here, he is going to go for the Eviltal EX in the backup. He opts to go for the Escape Rope into the Floatstone onto the active. Again, this is a deck where you're not in any hurry to really get the Garbodor into play. You put it in when you feel like it, pretty much, or if you're going to be playing an N to deny Shamans and Ultra Balls from being outs. He's in no rush here. having a float stone on the active Yveltal EX is going to be handy. We see him actually miss the Max Elixir, but that's one of the main reasons. You want to be able to Max Elixir, start attaching energy to your bench where it's a little bit safer, and then freely move into your other Yveltal. As we see, he does have another Max Elixir here.
Yeah, well, I don't think that Jack is really going to question his moves last turn or last game. What I really think is going on in his mind, he's playing a legend here, and he's up and coming. He's on the first time maybe on the stream here. He has seen Michael on stream on Pokemon.com/live so often. He knows he's a very good player. He might be intimidated just a little bit, and this might come down to a couple of decisions that might be questions afterwards, and he might make differently, or if he watches the stream, he's like, oh, why did I do this at the time? This you just don't know, right? You have to be in the situation, and for Jack this is a huge learning experience already here, and hopefully for him he's going to be able to focus on his game, not to think too much about the stream, not focus on Michael, not focus on game number 1, and then he is going to be just fine.
Absolutely, and it looks like he's had a pretty good turn here. He's opting to go for the Y Cyclone alongside that Fighting Fury Belt. He's doing 100 damage. Michael, this game, it's a completely different how he tried to approach this game. Now that he had a much better start on his turn 1 and 2, he's happy to initiate the prize race. He's happy to get the first bit of damage onto the Yveltal EX. We see him attach again for the turn onto his active, and he's going to follow that up with a Professor Sycamore after evolving into Garbodor. It looks like he's drawn into another Max Elixir here, so he's trying to approach the game very differently this time. Last game he was very cautious, trying to go for that stally play, try and set up multiple Yveltal EXs. This game, a completely different story.
That's more like it. That's what I want to see. If I look at Yveltal mirror matches, it's fast and furious. Michael is deciding on how fast he wants this mirror match to be. Fighting Fury Belt attached to Jack's active makes it so that he has now, there's 80, so there's 130 hit points left. So that's 40 right now. We're doing 100 damage with the Evil Ball. That's not quite enough, so he's deciding what am I going to do? Am I going to go slow, Evil Ball, maybe
I would
Y-Cyclone?
I think personally I'd quite like to still see the, well, either option's good here because there's already the 80, so adding on the 90 does get him to the 170, so I think it's likely we'll see the Y-Cyclone here more than anything else. It preserves energy, and also it gets it to 170. Now obviously there's Fighting Fury Belt, that doesn't look like a great number, but Jack has got Fright Knight Yveltal on the bench, so oftentimes what we will see from players is, because the Garbodor doesn't have the tool yet, he will often go to the 170 damage as exactly that's what's happening right now. Michael's going for that approach to preserve the energy. Then that Fright Knight Yveltal once again becomes a liability for Jack.
Yeah, friend or foe for that Fright Knight Yveltal there on the bench. Jack knows if he's going to invest in it, it might come back to haunt him. So instead he's attaching the Darkness energy to the active Yveltal EX. Now with 2 energy and the Fighting Fury Belt, he is dealing 110 damage. That's more than enough to knock out Michael's active Yveltal EX. So that's also why he saved some energy for the Y-Cyclone and attached to the bench one.
Yeah, he does use that Trainer's Mail for the Enhanced Hammer. He may as well threaten it and get himself an extra card in the hand. It doesn't look like he has any supporter, so you just want to take something so that you don't end up dead drawing. It's one card that's no longer in your deck, so you can't draw into it. And we are just going to see that Evil Ball picking up the Max Elixir and one other card. Don't think it was the VS Seeker or the Shaman or anything like that, so still in a bit of trouble here, I think, Jack, whereas Pram, again, he looks to be in fairly good shape. It'll be interesting to see if he does go for the Lysander play. He doesn't have much energy going on his side of the board, but we are going to see the Ultra Ball getting rid of a Dark Energy and a Shaman, so that indicates to me he wants to get some sort of attacker going. He could get his own Fright Knight Yveltal into the active even. That's also a route that he can go for. That is the thing he's searching for. He doesn't need to Lysander up Jax. He can simply retreat, take 2 prizes that way, start Max Elixiring back onto that Yveltal EX and setting up, again, multiple threats. So plenty of options once again for Michael.
And maybe he wants also to have access to those prize cards while his turn is still going on. Maybe he doesn't have energies, he doesn't want to waste the manual attachment. If he draws the 2 prize cards we are seeing right now, there is going to be indeed a Darkness Energy and the Team Flare Grunt.
The Team Flare Grunt is good in both situations here, so I think because he was happy enough to Ultra Ball away the Shaman EX, obviously the Parallel City is the factor here, that he couldn't put down Shaman and have any other attackers, but I think it sort of leads in my mind that he still has some sort of supporter. The Team Flare Grunt is the one he uses because, of course, there's a double Colourless Energy staring him down. So Pram, again, playing beautifully in my eyes.
It's amazing, and he knows there's an enhanced hammer in Jack's hand, so if he had the choice between double colorless and darkness energy, it's always going to be the darkness energy. He's attaching that one, probably going to pass the turn right now, and let's see how Jack is going to respond to that.
And again, I feel that early Professor Sycamore where Jack chose not to put down the Trubbish, it really just means that Michael's the one who controls when Fright Knight goes. He's the key here. He's the one saying, I'm ready to stop Fright Knight when it's suitable for me. Jack doesn't have that available to him. We've seen him just attach a Floatstone, but right now it's doing nothing.
I hope he remembers that, and he's not planning on doing anything crazy with his benched Fright Knight Evoltal. He has another Max Elixir in hand, I believe. Now he's using Ultra Ball, I believe.
And he is going to grab himself Shaman EX. Of course, Garbodor is in play, but no Floatstone, so abilities are still in effect. There is no Garbotoxin on the field just yet, so he will be able to refresh his hand a little bit here. It may be the case that he needs to find some other Yveltal EXs. We are going to see one Max Elixir come off here, and looks like a bunch of supporter cards. Could have been something maybe he would have liked to have set up into, but again, it's one of those things, you want to play the Max Elixir down so that you're lowering your hand size before you use the Shaman EX to set up, and obviously he couldn't have known how those top 6 cards were going to look.
Yeah, there's another Lysander, and also there is a Darkness Energy. He chooses not to attach. Maybe he is hoping for a double colorless, or maybe some more information before he commits to where to attach it.
And this Lysander could be pretty helpful because it means he can get the Fright Knight out of the active to allow him the Floatstone. We see him attach the Dark Energy to the Oblivion Wing, and that means he's most likely going to Lysander something up, as we're seeing exactly right now. He can then use that Floatstone again. It comes back online. We're going to see a little bit of poke damage. The 30 is relevant, of course. And we are going to see some energy acceleration back on Jack's side, setting up that Yveltal EX.
I absolutely love the Oblivion Wing Evoltal in the mirror match. It's so important, especially if your opponent is relying on energy removal. This is kind of negating the effect of Team Flare Grunt. Not exactly, but in this case, he can make sure that he has a steady energy flow. At the same time, it's not worth as much to hit the Oblivion Wing Evoltal. As you can see here, he's going for another Evil Ball, and now trying to have Shaman be in the stuck in the active spot, dealing 60 damage, and even if it returns, it's still threatened by a knockout from the Fright Knight Evoltal next turn.
That's what I really like about this play from Michael. It forces the Floatstone's not enough for Jack. Again, he's being punished for not putting down that Trubbish. I keep wanting to say how big of a deal that early decision was from him. As you're saying, if he does get the double Colorless Energy to Sky Return, that's fine. He's cleared Shaman off the board, but it gives Michael another turn of Pitchback Spear onto the EX. So it's still a problem for Jack either way. And obviously committing his attachment for turn to the Shaman is going to be a problem. He can't really afford a Lysander into Floatstone. I don't think he has the hand for it. And it looks like he's just going to Ultra Ball out the Garbodor because he feels he doesn't need it, so he can then discard it with the Professor Sycamore. He doesn't even find the double Colorless Energy, so that's not even an option for him.
No, retreating is his only option, but he's retreating just to see his Shaman go down next turn. But he figures, might as well retreat to make sure that I can use Oblivion Wing and get something going maybe for me, and also benching an Evoltal EX. Let's see where he attaches the Oblivion Wing energy.
I'm pretty sure it'll be to the healthy Yveltal EX. That seems to be the more clear option for me. I would feel that Michael doesn't really want to even take that Shaman KO just yet. We know the Parallel City's in play, so he's seen already that Jack doesn't play any other stadium, so that Shaman's there to stay. As long as he can get another Fright Knight at some different point in the game, that's going to be an option for him. What's appealing right now is putting 60 damage onto the Yveltal EXs. We saw it last game. It meant that he was quite easily able to finish off the game with Evil Balls. And I think, again, that's going to be Michael Pramawat's approach here.
Yeah, I don't know if he has Versus Seeker available, but that would be huge if he could Lysander out that Evoltal EX right now and knock out the Shaman in the same time. Then this would ensure that there's no Evoltal EX that could stand a revenge Evil Ball from his side and almost guarantee that he is able to draw the last 4 prize cards. But it's not as easy as that, but I just can't see his cards, but I don't think there's a Versus Seeker in there.
Yeah, I think Michael, he is going to go for the Pokemon Center Lady. He was debating which target to go for. Chooses to heal up the EX fully and then commit an energy to it. And he's going to be able to quite comfortably set up some more Pitchback Spears here. He does have the debate of where to put this damage. He knows that Jack is playing Pokemon Center Lady, so he may potentially want the Shaman early on. I personally wouldn't go for that play. I prefer taking the board control approach. I could see either Yveltal EXs again. There's reasons for both here. We see the Fighting Fury Belt go on to the Fright Knight Yveltal. There's still no ability lock just yet, so it doesn't mean much. Pram is going to choose to go for the Shaman EX, so putting himself down to 2 prizes, I think that means that he probably has double Colourless Energy in hand to finish off the final Yveltal EX on the bench. I think that's what's telling here. That's the line of play he's gone for, and there's got to be a specific reason for it. You can see he's clutching his hand right now. I think he knows that's his line of play to win this game. And Jack doesn't have really much of a board state to finish off the game just yet. There's not much going. He opted to promote the Oblivion Wing Yveltal. Obviously, the Floatstone isn't active just yet, so I think all of this stems back to the early Professor Sycamore. I have to keep going back to it. I think it's a very crucial turning point in the game. We see the attachment of double Colourless Energy to the fully healed Yveltal EX, but I don't really see a great way of him retreating the Oblivion Wing. But, as we've just mentioned, Pokemon Center Lady is a factor, and I think that does harm Michael's potentially winning condition last, the sort of thing he set up last turn. I think that's been ruined a little bit by the Pokemon Center Lady there.
Yeah, at the same time, he might be thinking to himself, good thing that I actually knocked out that Shaman EX, because now I have access to a couple of more cards in hand, because I think he only had a Floatstone in hand, if I saw correctly, last turn. And at the same time, this Pokemon Center Lady could have also been used on the Shaman EX and negated that knockout on the Fright Knight Yveltal, because maybe this is the last turn that Fright Knight Yveltal is going to work for Michael. Here's that Floatstone. And let's see if he actually managed to find something. Yeah, there is the Professor Sycamore discarding another Floatstone and a Trubbish.
Yeah, really good stuff. Pram knows exactly when to start, keep digging for things. He's exhausted his hand. We do see an Enhanced Hammer again come down. It's really, he's timed those very nicely. It's always been a punishing factor here. Michael's going to be able to go for another pitch black spear here, and it will keep the Yveltal in the active position where he wants it because of that 130 HP. That Fighting Fury Belt, of course, doesn't work right now because Garbodor's not in play. Fright Knight, therefore, is. So setting up again these Yveltal EXs is going to be nice. He does have the double Colourless Energy in hand, but he knows that Jack is also playing Enhanced Hammer, so he doesn't want to attach for turn when he doesn't need to.
Yeah, here it is. That Oblivion Wing Yveltal is most likely going to stay there for another Oblivion Wing. It's not going to do Jack any good, but again, he finds himself in a situation where he just can't get rid of the active Yveltal. He doesn't really like it. Okay,
so we're seeing the commitment of the turn attachment to the active, so maybe that's leading me to believe that he's going to retreat, but in fact, we're just going to see another heal with the Pokemon Center Lady, and we do see the retreat now, so because the Fury Belt isn't active, then he's able to simply Evil Ball fully healed Yveltal EX, and he's navigated this very nicely, I think, and he's going to be able to take a prize now and go to 3 remaining.
Yes, now it really comes down to what can Michael do now to make sure that he's threatening the 2 last prize cards he has. If he is dealing an Evil Ball, that's 100 damage on the active Yveltal. Does he find... Oh, he finds himself delinquent. How many cards does Jack have in hand?
I can't see what he has. He's got a decision, so it's not everything. Otherwise, you'd kind of do like a rage quit where you put them all into the discard early. It looks like it is a low hand size, though. It's probably 3 or 4. Or not 3, at least. It'll be 4 or 5 or so.
So Faded Town is gone.
Very awkward. The Faded Town, obviously, is going to be the thing that goes first. What else is Jack going to choose to get rid of? Everything pretty awkward for him. And Pram looking pretty good right now. In terms of energy-wise, there's still a few things he's going to look for. He does discard the Professor Sycamore, so Michael pretty much knows that there's either another Sycamore in his hand or there's a Versus Seeker. We are going to see him checking the discard pile, see what things he has Versus Seeker available for, and he's going to continue with his turn here, see what to search out and what to attach to. I think Michael is likely to go for another Yveltal EX here above anything else, and hopefully start committing energy to that one. Maybe go for a Y-Cyclone play this turn is often going to be the case here. He is checking through his deck, and he is going to obviously go and find that Yveltal EX, the backup, now that he can spend some turn attachments onto probably the active and then just go for the Y-Cyclone play. Alternatively, he could just go for the Evil Ball play and attach to the bench, but it seems to be more preferable just damage-wise to go for the Y-Cyclone this turn.
Yeah, and he has both options available, Darkness Energy and Double Colorless Energy. Most likely going with, I would assume, the Darkness Energy, because it's not being discarded with Enhanced Hammer that easily. And so Y-Cyclone does 90 damage anyway, there's no need to slam down your Double Colorless Energy right now. Ooh. As he attaches Double Colorless Energy to the Shaman EX.
Okay, so this is actually setting up the early 30 damage, okay? So he's trying to get himself into Evil Ball range the following turn. I think the plan very much was that oh, Jack picks up the Trainer's Mail off the top. I think he's assuming Jack has either VS Seeker or Professor Sycamore in his hand, so he's thinking, I'm probably not going to get Lysandered. My bench Yveltal EX is safe. There's not too much he can do to me here. It's interesting that Jack actually took the Professor Sycamore. Wow, okay, so the card he kept was double Colorless Energy, and that Trainer's Mail was absolutely huge. A real gamble from Jack, but wow, that's a really bold play.
Yeah, now I'm a little bit puzzled. Now Michael has Yveltal EX active without any energy, and this could become a problem here. Now that Fright Night Yveltal is here, does he have 2 more float subs? I think he discarded all of them. Is there any way he can move it anytime soon?
I mean, there could be just 1 Float Stone, and Lysander, I guess, is a play. He doesn't play any Hexmaniac, of course, because he's using the Garbodor instead. So Jack, wow, that Trainer's Mail, I can't say how huge that was. He didn't opt to use the Sycamore, though. He's still got that 1 card in hand, hasn't he?
There is a Float Stone.
There's 1 Float Stone. Okay.
And does he have access to Versus Seeker? Because if he has, the game is over, because
There's
he has double
Shaman
colorless.
for 3 cards.
He needs the Versus. There is
There's the
Lysander, that's
Lysander.
it. Double colorless energy attached to the Yveltal EX on the bench. Yveltal.
Yeah, he's
Jack,
got 140, he's got the
it's
double
enough.
Colorless Energy, he can just attach the DCE, go for the Lysander, and that is going to be enough. He can then free retreat with his last Float Stone, I believe. And wow, Pram executing perfectly the way to win a Yveltal Mirror.
That's just amazing. Michael pulls it off again, just in time delivery. 2-0 for Michael. He's almost guaranteed to move to day 2, coming over from the United States and teaching us here in Europe a little lesson on how to play Yveltal.
Absolutely, that was just a really impressive display.